Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is that you just witnessed? That's a ritual that just took place at the Vatican. We're going to discuss what exactly is that, right? Is this just some kind of cultural procession that is devoid of any religious connotation or religious undertones to what just took place? And so we're going to see different perspectives and explanations for what we just witnessed and a lot of other stuff that just took place. Because, long story short, as I told y'all, the Pope was going to have a day of interreligious dialogue and also ecumenical dialogue. So he was going to have a meeting with people from, representatives of all sorts of religions out there, as well as meetings with other Christian groups. And so a lot just took place. Probably, the most notable things would be, things like that procession that we just saw, some of the things that the Pope said in his message, as well as some people that were present with prayers that the Pope shared and participated in, most notably a gay woman priest that the Pope prays with, along with others, including the Eastern Orthodox representatives who were present, Oriental Orthodox, and many others. And so I want to take a look at all of this and maybe also consider the different perspectives that people are having, different reactions that some people are giving us so far about what they're seeing here, how they're processing it, and what exactly took place. So all of that is what I'm going to discuss today. I do want to remind y'all, however, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you appreciate the fact that I'm taking up my time and doing my best to keep you informed as to what is going on. Also, let me know there in the comment section if you're able to hear and see me right now, because I have been having some tech issues. So just making sure that everybody is able to see me live right now. So I'd appreciate the feedback there in the comment section. Okay, so the first thing that we need to maybe take a look at is the prayer service with the various Christian groups present. And like I said, a lot of people were there. We have Oriental Orthodox representatives, Anglican representatives, Eastern Orthodox representatives, and some of these other figures are not entirely, it's not entirely clear to me who they are, and what their religious affiliation is. But probably what you're going to find, again, most interesting in the first part is the Pope goes to the Coliseum, the place where a lot of people were, supposed to have been martyred for the faith. He goes to the Coliseum and has this prayer event where he prays with a number of other Christians from other communities. And again, probably most exceptional is going to be this lady minister who is wearing a pride uh, um, pride garment here, as you can see. I I guess it's a stole. But clearly we know the perspective she's coming from, right? You can also see another lady minister here. There's a few others. Here's the patriarch. You can't see him in this picture very well, but that's the patriarch of the Copts. This is the patriarch of Alexandria for the Eastern Orthodox. And so a lot of people were present. Like I said, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox. You can actually get a wide shot here of kind of everyone who is present. So we got the Pope, we got Anglican minister, Armenian Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, probably Russian Orthodox, Alexandrian Patriarchate, so the Patriarch of Alexandria, about 3 lady ministers, including the LGBT one over here. So quite a few people, and you can see they're at the Coliseum and they have a prayer event. And, one of the concerns is going to be, some people are going to say that this sends, the wrong message by having lady ministers present here. It's, something that's incompatible with Catholicism, that says there aren't any female clergy and there couldn't possibly be any. The church doesn't have the authority to ordain women. So some people are going to feel it's misleading by doing this. Others think, well, hey, what's the problem? This is being welcoming, and Jesus ate with sinners, right? So I've already seen a lot of people react to this very differently, with different perspectives. So some people, they don't have an issue with it. They think if Jesus were here today, he would do it. Others say, no, it's an absolute abomination. It's misleading. It's giving license to sin. It's giving the impression that one recognizes this and thinks that it's legitimate. At the very least, it's going to, for a lot of people, give the appearance of scandal, right? And so the question of prudence is going to kick in. Is it wise to do these kinds of things? To my knowledge, I've never seen a pope pray alongside of a gay LGBT woman priest. To my knowledge, this is the first time that has happened in history. Now, praying together with other religious communities publicly itself is kind of a controversy. The Eastern Orthodox are going to point out that when patriarchs do this, even when their own bishops do this, they're in violation of their own canons, because there are canons prohibiting prayers with non-Orthodox. Where did those canons come from? They come from the ancient church, where there are prohibitions against praying with schismatics and heretics. And the idea from the early church was you are who you pray with. So if you're praying with heretics and schismatics, you're a heretic and schismatic. So there were canons prohibiting that. Even on the books to this day, Eastern Orthodox have those canons, but a lot of the bishops and patriarchs don't really follow it. And so some Orthodox think that they're heretics. In the Catholic Church, we've seen kind of a shift and a change, especially in the post-conciliar period, on praying with other communities. And you can see that already in the Second Vatican Council itself, and certainly in the post-conciliar period. So there's a little bit of controversy there, but it's at this point a pretty normal thing in the life of the Catholic Church in the post-conciliar period, but it's still a little controversial for the Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox. But to my knowledge, the issue of praying with a female woman priest with an LGBT stole, to my knowledge, that's the first time this has happened in history. So I think this is a pretty significant event in and of itself. If nothing else happened, that right there, I think is kind of, that raises some eyebrows for sure. But again, some people are going to think, hey, no big deal. Jesus ate with sinners, did he not? Others are going to point out, well, hold on, weren't they repentant sinners? And a person who's wearing a stole, LGBT stole, they're clearly not repenting of that. They're representing it and saying that there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I do have to point out, I have seen people already say, well, look, hey, maybe he didn't know she was going to be there. The Vatican put on this event. So, the Pope and his representatives invited specifically these people. So, yes, the Pope knew she was going to be there. And if there were any kind of doubt or something, we have very clearly at the end, he's going up, shaking the hands of all the lady ministers. There's no kind of rebuke. There's no kind of correction. There's no kind of surprise even. Here's the lady with the I believe she's the one with the LGBT stole on. Let me show you a few other pictures here. You can see again, the Patriarch of Alexandria just did the readings there, and you can see the lady behind there, not too far from the Pope. Here's the Pope greeting the LGBT minister. I don't know her name yet or her religious affiliation. I suspect either Anglican or Methodist or Lutheran. I don't know for sure. If somebody maybe knows who she is, please let me know. I would like to find out a little bit more information. So yeah, you can see some other pictures here. There was that event that took place. It was relatively brief. They had some prayers and a few readings and stuff like that. And then they moved on. They left the stadium, and then they go right outside of the stadium to then participate in an interreligious event. So not just among Christians, which was in the stadium, in the Coliseum, I should say. But when they left, then you have Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhists, and many others, right? So they all get together, and they have a really short ceremony there outside of the Coliseum. There wasn't a whole lot to it. It was pretty brief, but I'll just show you just a couple photos of it, and then we'll get to the bigger interreligious event that took place inside of the Pope Paul VI audience hall. But here you can see they had this little candle lighting ceremony where all of the religions came up to this candle and lit the candle together. Here's Cardinal Zuppi. He just celebrated a Latin Mass recently, did he not? Or something like that, I think. So he's been in the news lately. But okay, so he's lighting the candle. There's a few others. Here's a Jew. Here's a presumably Eastern Orthodox. And again, representatives from every world religion here. They just light a candle, I think, representing peace is what it was supposed to represent. So there wasn't a whole lot going on there. There was that short service with a short message, and that was kind of the end of that. The more bigger interreligious event took place after that at the Pope Paul VI audience hall. So if you're just now tuning in, let me maybe show you a quick clip of the procession that they had beginning that audience. And then we're going to talk all about everything that was discussed and done there, as well as what this procession might be. Is it a just cultural procession devoid of any religious significance? Is it a religious service? You know, there's some snake figure that was processed into the Vatican, and so there's going to be kind of some questions on what is that? Is it, again, just some cultural item, or does it represent something religious? I did get some feedback from several people with different perspectives, so we'll explore both just to cover everything and all options here. But let me show you that video just in case you didn't see the very beginning, and then let's talk about it. Again, I want to remind you, by the way, hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Okay, so here's the beginning procession that I've just called the snake procession because I don't know what else to call it, although the there are some clues as to what it is. So we'll discuss it in a moment. Let me show you the video real quick. Okay. So yeah, that's going to raise some eyebrows, and people are rightly going to ask, what exactly is that? What's going on here? Let me just again share my screen and show you maybe I think the thing that stood out to me the most was this particular item that was processed by a shirtless boy that is very clearly a snake, right? Which is certainly going to be controversial for a number of reasons. I mean, well, look, first of all, I just think it's a disaster to feature shirtless boys in the Vatican. Like, stop it. Like, come on. This is just, do I have to say it? Obviously, this is bad optics. Another thing is, regardless of what the snake represents, is it a good idea to feature a serpent being processed in the Vatican? Look, there's different roles to the serpent in the Old Testament. but obviously it's going to be perceived in a very negative way, right? Clearly, the serpent is associated with Satan in the book of Genesis. A little later on, you have a serpent associated with healing. Moses instructs the Israelites to create a serpent image, and everybody has to look at the serpent in order to be saved from poisonous snakes. And so there's clearly different, you know, imagery there associated with a serpent in the Old Testament. But 9 times out of 10, when a person sees a serpent in a religious context, they're going to think Satan, right? So clearly, already optics are not looking good. And look, you know, one of the reasons why I'm smiling here is there's a huge conspiracy theory about the Pope Paul VI audience hall where this was processed in. Where people feel like the audience hall itself is a serpent. I don't know if it's just like the optics of the camera, you know, the fisheye camera kind of thing, or what. But some people feel like this is already the building itself is in the shape of the serpent, so it's given, you know, rise to numerous conspiracy theories about the Vatican being evil and satanic and all that. And so maybe, I don't know, just having, you know, a serpent processed into the audience hall is probably not the best idea. But I'm just gonna say, you know, that's the first thing that came to mind to me. But okay, so what are they saying this is, right? Um, you know, I'm seeing different people say it's different things. Well, they had at the beginning, like right before the procession, kind of an explanation, and they said that it's a Khandian dance. So just looking it up here, this encompasses various dance forms popular and native to the area called Kandy of the Central Hills region in Sri Lanka, which have today spread to other parts of the country. It's an example and considered a masterpiece and a sacred artwork in Sri Lanka. And there's different kinds, different versions for different purposes. And some say that it's associated with Buddhism and that the serpent there is a nagas, which is, if you look here, a divine or semi-divine race of half-human, half-serpent beings that reside in the netherworld that you see again associated with Hinduism and Buddhism. So some are saying that, right? Some are saying that this is some kind of serpent deity associated with Buddhism and Hinduism. And so they're going to see it as an idol. They're going to see this as the procession of some pagan divinity, pagan deity into the Vatican, right? So they're going to see this as something very demonic, very evil. And again, the role of the serpent has different roles in Hinduism and Buddhism. Perhaps we can explore that at a later time. But that's one theory. That's one explanation that I've seen from some. Now, I saw another one from a Catholic priest who actually commented on one of my shorts, and here's what he says it is. And so he's going to take a different perspective. So let me just maybe show you what he says and read it to you in his own words. That way I'm not misrepresenting him, and then that way we can see different theories here. He says, I'm a Sri Lankan Catholic priest, and let me explain this to you. This is the Sri Lankan up-country traditional dancing. It is the culture of the country, and as the majority of the Sri Lankans are Buddhists, these dancing was also used for Buddhist ceremonies, but it is not only Buddhist, it is Sinhalese culture, nothing to worry about. It was a dance to welcome the kings, nobles, and special people. It's a great honor we show to the person when we perform this dance. It has nothing to do with snakes. What you see as a snake is just a traditional decoration of a musical instrument. It's called a sankha or hak gendia in Sinhala. Like the horns to the Jews, the Indians and the Sri Lankans use this to inform through this that there is an important person arriving. This is what it is brought at first. This dance was also at my first mass, and don't worry, there is nothing to be afraid of. I'm very much into the Gregorian chants and traditional or Tridentine mass, but I feel there is no fault of taking cultural elements which do not contradict our Holy Catholic doctrine. Okay, so he's saying that this is a cultural item in a cultural procession devoid of any kind of religious significance. So I've already seen a couple people say different and contradictory things, right? So there's going to be a big debate on, I suspect, what exactly is this? What is the role? What is the nature of this symbolism? Is it just a cultural thing that's to introduce important figures? Because in procession, in that procession there were cardinals, um, Eastern Orthodox representatives, Oriental Orthodox representatives, and representatives from every religion, right? So some significant people were there. So is this just kind of a thing to introduce kings and important representatives, no religious connotation, or does it have some religious significance? Either way that it shakes down, let's go with the best case scenario, that it's just like a cultural thing with no religious significance. Let's go with that, right? To steel man it. Um, Again, though, the optics, right? The optics. How wise is it to process a serpent in the Vatican, already in a hall that to some people looks like a serpent, knowing what the serpent represents to most people in a Christian context? Um, how wise is that, right? Debatable on how wise, right? So there's that to consider. There's that element as well. But I wanted to show you the kind of different perspectives and different things that people are saying, to just cover all bases, and maybe we can take a look at it and do a deeper dive on that in the future. But I wanted to just briefly cover that. There's a few other things that we need to take a look at, because a lot was going on here. They showed this video. Let's maybe show some clips of what they show next. They show this video of different. Well, before I do that, let me show you the part where they have these religious symbols that are shown during a dance that they had. So they have this cultural dance going on, and then they start flashing different symbols. They start flashing um, the Om symbol in Hinduism and some other Indian religions. Um, we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. They flash the cross, obviously, Christian symbol. They flash the crescent moon, Muslim symbol. They then flash another symbol representing Buddhism. So they start showing symbols that are not just cultural in nature, but are religious in nature, with all these religions present. So let me maybe show that part to you, and then let's talk a little bit about it before we look at some of the other things that took place here. So okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Please let me know if there's any difficulty in hearing the audio. Gonna go ahead and share it now. Again, let me know if you have difficulty in hearing it. You should be able to see it on your screen right around now. So let's go ahead and begin. All right, so this is the Om symbol, again, featured prominently in Hinduism and also some other Indian religions. We'll talk about it here in a second. But these are the symbols that, like I said, they start flashing. So now they're bringing out the cross symbol. All right, fast forwarding it here just a little bit. All right, so here's the Islamic crescent moon symbol that's going to be brought out. So here you can see very, very clearly the crescent and the moon, right? I feel the Buddhists got really slighted because they actually have a Buddhist symbol there, but they never brought it out. Like they never processed it out. They show the crucifix, they show the crescent and the moon, they show the Om representing Hinduism, but they have the wheel representing the Buddhists, right? But they don't bring it out officially and prominently display it. I don't know why. So Buddhists, they got shortchanged here. So maybe that was the part they were supposed to bring it out. I don't know, but okay, so there was that, right? Um, so so that one is a little bit more than just kind of a cultural thing because here you have religious imagery being displayed and um, prominently displayed at different parts, and kind of seeing a symbol representing Hinduism next to a cross and a crucifix, right? Um, could send the wrong message at the very least, right? So that appears to have a little bit more than just a cultural connotation. Those appear to be there appears to be kind of more of a religious message there. So what exactly is the symbol, just for those who may not be familiar with the first one that we saw, just kind of again prominently displayed right next to the cross and crucifix. So the Om symbol represents a sacred sound, a mantra, and an invocation in Hinduism, as well as in other Indian religions, although there it was displayed to feature Hinduism specifically, because again, they already had a separate symbol for Buddhists. It is the essence of the supreme absolute consciousness, Atman, Brahman, or the cosmic world. And Indian religions um, serves as a sonic representation of the divine. You've probably seen, different Hindus and yogis, employing that sound in their mantras, a standard of Vedic authority and a central aspect of soteriological doctrines and practices. It's the basic tool for meditation in the yogic path to liberation. And there's big debate on yoga, even within Catholicism. Some feel like, oh, well, you can do yoga as long as you separate it from an intention to worship Hindu divinities. Others say no, even the positions and the stretching positions in and of themselves is already an act of devotion and religious service to these divinities, and so you can't do it, and you'll get possessed if you do it. And there's kind of a big debate on that. Between various Vatican documents and exorcists, there's different views. The syllable is often found at the beginning and the end of chapters in the Vedas and the Upanishads and other Hindu texts. It's described as the goal of all the Vedas. So that's a quick summary of the symbol, right? So again, that particular one, when you're displaying that religious imagery, is it merely cultural? It doesn't appear to be at that point, right? Because they're then displaying and flashing the cross. Now, is the cross merely a cultural symbol? No, a lot of people do use it as a cultural symbol, but it's not merely that, right? It is a religious symbol, and so I would say something like the Om symbol wouldn't be merely cultural. It would be religious in nature, as would be the crescent moon, and so on. Okay, so looks like a little bit more was going on there than something that was just religious in nature. I'm sorry, cultural in nature. Now, after that, they start to show a whole bunch of video clips of popes, praying with other religions, meeting with other religions, praying at the Wailing Wall, the Jewish, place in Israel there. Why are they doing that? Well, this interreligious event is to commemorate 60 years of the document Nostra Aetate, which we've looked at many times on this channel, about the church's relationship with other religions. Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism are specifically highlighted. And it says that there's truth found in all of these other religions, and the church doesn't reject those, and the church wants to build good relations with these other religions, and it condemns anti-Semitism. It condemns any kind of unjust discrimination of people because of their religion and so on. And it wants to foster and build good relations with anyone of goodwill. So we've looked at that document many times, and it tends to be controversial in some quarters of Catholicism, especially in traditional quarters. It tends to spark some controversy. And it is really the bedrock for all of the interreligious stuff that we see in the post-conciliar period. So like the 1986 Assisi meeting, where Pope John Paul II invites all the world religions to come together and pray for peace, pray to God or their gods for peace, and then gave a church to the Hindus to celebrate their religious ceremonies within the church, gave Buddhists a church to do theirs, and so caused a lot of controversy at the time, right? We saw then Benedict do an Assisi, and now we're seeing Pope Leo looking back on that fondly and basically saying this is another Assisi that they're having. So we'll actually see that where he says that in his speech, something to that effect, and does bring up Assisi. But they start showing those videos, right, of Assisi. They show videos of the Pope signing documents with the Grand Imam in Abu Dhabi. I don't think they show Benedict praying in a mosque with the Muslims, because he did in 2000, I forget what year. I forget what year specifically. Somebody help me out in the chat. But they do show John Paul II in a mosque. And that was the first time a pope prayed in a mosque, was John Paul II. They show a clip of that. So they start showing all of this, right, in the post-conciliar period. So let's maybe go over some of those video clips that they displayed. Let's take a look at the first one here. Let's go over Francis, Pope Francis praying with the Abrahamic religions, as they say, in the video. Watch that.
2 years later, on the 6th of March 2021, in Ur of the Chaldeans, in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, Pope Francis prayed with representatives of the Abrahamic religions.
Guardiamo in cielo.
We look up to heaven. We want to preserve eternity. We must not lose sight of heaven. May we, the descendants of Abraham and the representatives of different religions, sense that above all we have this role to help our brothers and sisters to raise their eyes and prayers to heaven.
All right, so there's that. Now, then they also show John Paul II at Assisi with all the world religions praying for peace. They don't show the video footage where everyone comes up and prays to their god or gods for peace, and they don't show the video footage of the Hindus in their ceremonies in a church and all that, but they do show a little bit of the footage. So let me show you that clip as well.
On the 27th of October 1986, John Paul II gathered representatives of the world's religions to pray for peace in Assisi.
If there are many and important differences among us, there is also a common ground whence we operate together in the solution of this dramatic challenge of our age. True peace or catastrophic war. The challenge of peace, as it is presently posed to every human conscience, is the problem a reasonable quality of life for all. The problem of survival for humanity. The problem of life and death.
So that was the first time that the Pope invited representatives from the world religions to come together and pray. Very controversial at the time, and still remains so. After that, they show a video clip of Pope Benedict XVI having another version of Assisi. That one was a little less flashy, a little less controversial because I don't think that he gave like Hindus or Buddhists a church to pray in and stuff like that. So that one didn't spark as much controversy, but they then show a quick clip of that. So here's Benedict's Assisi.
In 2011, Benedict XVI returned to Assisi, where he called for reflection on the relationship between faith and peace.
L'assenza di Dio porta al decadimento dell'uomo e dell'umanesimo. Ma dov'è Dio? Lo conosciamo e possiamo mostrarlo nuovamente all'umanità per fondare una vera pace. Si tratta piuttosto del ritrovarsi insieme, in questo essere in cammino verso la verità, dell'impegno deciso per la dignità dell'uomo e del farsi carico insieme della causa della pace contro ogni specie di violenza distruttrice del diritto.
Okay, so then after that, they show a clip of John Paul II praying at a mosque. That was the first time in history a pope has, to my knowledge, entered a mosque and prayed in it. Again, Benedict did it after that in the Blue Mosque, and prayed right alongside of Muslims in an Islamic stance. And that was a little bit after John Paul II did this. So here's the clip that they show of John Paul II, first time a pope enters a mosque and prays in a mosque.
In 2001, John Paul II entered the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus.
As members of the one human family and as believers, we have obligations to the common good, to justice and to solidarity. Interreligious dialogue will lead to many forms of cooperation, especially in responding to the duty to care for the poor and the weak. These are the signs that our worship of God is genuine.
All right, so after that, they then show Pope Francis meeting with the Grand Imam and signing a document with him. And that is that Abu Dhabi document that sparked a lot of controversy because it says that God wills religious diversity. And, later on, he kind of clarified what he meant by that as the permissive will of God. God permits it, not that he thinks that that's the ideal. Now, Pope Francis had kind of some more controversial moments with that, saying that all religions lead to God afterwards. And so that kind of kickstarted that old controversy once more, just maybe about a year before he passed, I believe. And we discussed that on this channel in detail. But they're then showing a clip of him signing that document with the Grand Imam. Take a look.
On the 4th of February 2019, Pope Francis signed the document on human fraternity with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar in Abu Dhabi.
Non si può onorare il Creatore senza
Cannot honor the
custodire la
Creator
sacralità
without
di ogni
cherishing the
persona
sacredness of
e di
every
ogni
person
vita
and of
umana.
every human life.
Ciascuno è
Each
ugualmente
person is equally
prezioso agli
precious
occhi
in
di
the
Dio,
eyes of God.
perché Egli
He
non
does not
guarda
look
la
upon the
famiglia
human
umana
family
con uno sguardo di
with a
preferenza
preferential
che
gaze that
esclude,
excludes,
ma con uno sguardo di
but with a
benevolenza
benevolent
che
gaze
include.
that includes.
Pertanto,
Thus,
riconoscere
to
ad
recognize
ogni
the same
essere
rights
umano
for
gli
every human
stessi
being
diritti e
is to
glorificare il
glorify
nome
the
di
name
Dio
of
sulla
God
terra.
on earth.
So after that, they want to highlight the church's relationship to the Jews, and they say that the church condemns all forms of anti-Semitism and really values the Jewish people and also the Jewish faith, and that the church builds on the Jewish faith. And so at that point, they show different popes praying at the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. So so there you saw John Paul II praying at the Wailing Wall. I think he might have been the first pope to do that. We saw them Benedict to do that. We saw Pope Francis. I suspect we'll also see Pope Leo doing that. So they showed that clip. Now after that, they have Pope Leo come out and he offers a speech, and I think a lot of people will be disappointed with it. He doesn't preach about Jesus. He doesn't call anyone to conversion. That wasn't the point of the message. The point of the message is the document, celebrating it, human fraternity, anti-Semitism is wrong. And at the end, there was that moment where he invited everyone to silent prayer. So I'll show you a quick clip of that.
Here I recall the words of St. John Paul II, spoken in Assisi in 1986. If the world is going to continue, and men and women are to survive in it, the world cannot do without prayer. And so now I invite each one of you to pause for a moment in silent prayer. May peace come down upon us and fill our hearts.
Okay, and so that was the end of that. There was no, again, preaching of the gospel, call to conversion. It seems like, from what I recall with John Paul II, for whatever faults there was with the CC of 86, I think he did have some catechesis that went along with it, in some speeches where he did highlight Jesus and kind of have a gentle call to conversion, if I recall correctly. But that didn't appear to be found here. Let me maybe show you the summary of the message. And he does highlight, again, this is kind of done in the spirit of Assisi, as he calls it. Let me share my screen and let's maybe take a look at a quick summary of the message that he delivered. And you can see on your screen there, they did have a fun, I don't know what exactly it was, but some kind of musical feature of traditional African music. And so that's what you're seeing here, screenshotted there. Okay, so, all right. Pope Leo, the message of Nostra Aetate remains as urgent as ever. So 60 years ago, with the publication of Nostra Aetate, the Second Vatican Council's declaration on the relationship of the Church with non-Christian religions, a seed of hope for interreligious dialogue was planted, Pope Leo said. Today, your presence bears witness that this seed has grown into a mighty tree, its branches reaching far and wide, offering shelter and bearing the rich fruits of understanding, friendship, and cooperation and peace. The Holy Father was addressing his remarks to representatives of world religions, members of the diplomatic corps accredited to the Holy See and Vatican, and church officials committed to interreligious dialogue who had gathered in the Paul VI Audience Hall on the anniversary of the Council's historic declaration. Nostra Aetate, the Pope says, opened our eyes to a simple yet profound principle. Dialogue is not a tactic or a tool. It's a way of life, a journey of the heart that transforms everyone involved, the one who listens and the one who speaks. Referring to the title of the anniversary celebration, Walking Together in Hope, Pope Leo said, we walk this journey, not by compromising our beliefs, but by remaining true to our convictions. Authentic dialogue, he continued, begins not in compromise, but in conviction, in the deep roots of our own belief that gives us the strength to reach out to others in love. Excuse me, later recalling the Jubilee of Hope and noting that hope and pilgrimage are realities common to our religion and religious traditions, Pope Leo insisted this is the journey that Nostra Aetate invites us to continue, to walk together in hope. This, he says, is not in the work of a single religion, nation, or generation, but a sacred task for all humanity to keep hope alive, to keep dialogue alive, to keep love alive in the heart of the world. The Holy Father began his address by recalling the many people of all beliefs who have worked over the past 60 years to bring Nostra Aetate to life, even to the point of giving their own lives, martyrs for dialogue who stood against violence and hatred. That's an interesting phrase there, right? Martyrs for dialogue. There have been a lot of martyrs in history. I don't remember a lot of martyrs for dialogue. I do remember a lot who died for their conviction that the church is the one true faith, and outside the church there is no salvation. I don't remember a lot of martyrs for dialogue, but be that as it may, martyrs for dialogue who stood against violence and hatred. We are where we are today, he said, because of their courage, their sweat, and their sacrifice. Insisting that the message of Nostra Aetate remains highly relevant today, Pope recalled the council's lessons that humanity is drawing closer, that all human beings belong to one human family and with one origin and one goal, that all religions try to respond to the restlessness of the human heart, and that the Catholic Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in these religions. That's why we then again subsequently see the magisterium saying that there's salvation. Jesus can save people through whatever good element is found in these other religions. Even if the person dies not knowing who Jesus is, it's Jesus who can save them through that religion. And there's 1,000 other qualifications the magisterium gives, but what are they basing it on? They're basing it on, usually they're referencing this part of the document, Nostra, Aetate. Pope Leo also recalled the origins of the Declaration, which stemmed from a desire for a document describing a new relationship between the Church and Judaism. This desire was realized in Nostra Aetate's 4th chapter, which forms the heart and generative core of the entire Declaration. That chapter, the Pope continued, led to the final chapter, which teaches that we cannot truly call on God, the Father of all, if we refuse to treat in a brotherly and sisterly way any man or woman created in the image of God. In the final portion of his remarks, the visible head of the Catholic Church reminded religious leaders that they share a sacred responsibility to help our people break free from the chains of prejudice, anger, and hatred, to help them rise above egoism and self-centeredness, to help them overcome their greed that destroys both the human spirit and the earth. In this way, he said, we can lead our people to become prophets of our time, voices that denounce violence and injustice, heal division, and proclaim peace for all our brothers and sisters. He reminded them of the great mission which they had been entrusted, not the Great Commission, but to reawaken in all men and women their sense of humanity and of the sacred. This, my friend, is precisely what we have come together in this place, he said, bearing the great responsibility as religious leaders to bring hope to a humanity that is often tempted to despair. Pope Leo concluded his remarks with the words of Pope John Paul II, who in Aetate 86 said, if the world is going to continue and men and women are to survive in it, the world cannot do without prayer. And thus he invited them all to pause together for a silent prayer with the invocation, may peace come down upon us and fill our hearts. And so again, that also too might be a little controversial for some people, because they're going to perceive this as the Pope is inviting some to call on their pagan deities in these prayers. And when they do so, according to the Bible, pagan divinities are actually demons, and so he's inviting them to pray to demons. Others are going to interpret it differently and say, no, the one true God hears their prayer, even if they're misguided and mistaken in who they're praying to, and so there's nothing wrong with inviting them. And so I've seen different people try to give an account for this phenomenon that we see in the post-conciliar period. Okay, there's a little bit more in this other article. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Y'all can take a look at it, but it's more the same. Okay, so that's effectively what we saw there in a nutshell. It was about 2 hours long, 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. So I went through it all so that you don't have to, right? And did my best to summarize it here for you. I already have lost some subscribers just from doing the shorts that I did earlier today on this. A lot of people are not happy with me even just reporting on it, even without weighing in and editorializing and offering my own thoughts and commentary on it. People are mad that I even just brought this to people's attention. They're like, don't even do it. Don't even bring it to people's attention. You're wrong if you bring it to people's attention, which I think is absurd, right? I mean, with all due respect. Look, if there's a problem here, I'm not the problem. Okay, it would be whoever's doing this is the problem. But if there's no problem, then there's also no issue with me showing it, right? So either way, there's no issue with me showing it. I'm not the issue. So to help offset that, right, for the people who are already upset with me for even just showing you what's going on, hey, hit that subscribe button, because there's already some people who are not happy, including some patrons who are not happy with me for even just bringing this to people's attention. Look, you can't hide this stuff, okay? For better or worse, like it or not, good or bad, you're not going to hide this stuff. This stuff is public. We're going to have to comment on it. We're going to have to offer some thoughts on it. My concluding thoughts on the matter, if you want to know my opinion. I don't think this stuff is very helpful and productive on the whole. I think it causes more harm than good. Whatever good comes from this, I think more harm and more scandal and more damage is done by this. And me bringing it to people's attention is not the thing that causes the scandal. Whoever does this, whoever is creating this, is causing the scandal, not me by just simply commenting on it. Because in reality, you're going to see this and you're going to come across this whether I comment on it or not. Now, maybe a lot of people won't bring this to your attention. Maybe they're going to pretend like it didn't happen. Maybe they're just going to go on and just pretend like business is usual and go on with whatever shows they had scheduled, and they're not going to say a word about it. Maybe, but look, in one way or another, you're going to hear about it. So whether I comment on it or not, the issue's there. The problem's there if there's a problem. And if there's no problem, there's still no issue with me commenting on it, right? But if you appreciate the fact that I brought this to your attention, if you appreciate the fact that I'm offering what I'm attempting to do as a balanced perspective and take on this, hey, hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. I would appreciate your support. And also do consider supporting me on Patreon, patreon.com/reason and theology. I'm probably going to lose some patrons just showing this to you guys. So, hey, help maybe offset that if you don't mind. And let me also bring to your attention one other thing. rtcourses.com. This is where I talk about what the magisterium is, what the teaching authority of the church is, what is authoritative, what is not, how to read and interpret magisterial documents. All of this stuff that you're seeing, you need to have a very good understanding in what the magisterium is and is not, how to read magisterial documents, how to interpret them, how to identify what is considered definitive, what is not definitive. I have a bundled package here of the magisterial studies program that I teach at the university level, and it is discounted since you can buy it as a bundle. 3 courses that I teach at a Catholic university at a fraction of the cost. Consider that, and also consider getting the lecture I just delivered on what papal infallibility is and isn't, as well as its history, along with some challenges and potential solutions to the challenges of the concept of papal infallibility. So I did a lecture on that I think you'll be interested in as well. I also got lectures on the Catholic Church's position throughout history on outside the church there is no salvation. So we take a careful look at that. We compare and contrast the preconciliar notion versus how it's reframed in the postconciliar period. We talk about, is there a substantial rupture or not? Is there a way to harmonize it? All sorts of stuff. So I got a lot of good lectures there that you will want to check out, as well as some free ebooks that I think you'll appreciate. So that's rtcourses.com. Go and check it out. And that's going to do it for today. Everybody hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I greatly appreciate your support. And I already see people in the chat saying, go to Eastern Orthodoxy, bro. Just to remind you, all of the Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox were present at both of those events earlier today, just as a brief reminder in case you're under the impression that this was something unique to the Catholic Church. All right. See you later. God bless.